What it is, y'all? It is your old boy Pilk, and this week in gaming, we had a lot of information to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump in, starting with the next generation NVIDIA cards, the Ampere cards. We finally have got a whole lot of data on this. We get even more confirmation that there are multiple cards coming out. There's obviously this one that's 10 gig, 12 gig, 24 gig. Note those core numbers. That top one, now the numbers you can kind of take with a grain of salt. We're still not sure if this is going to be 3080. Maybe that's going to be the 3070. I doubt it. Probably 3080 because the 70s usually aren't the GA102. They're the lower ends. So what we can pretty much guesstimate this is 3080. This might be 3080 Ti or it could be 3090. And then they've recently added this one up here, this GA102 400, that people are thinking is going to be the new Titan. So they're talking about maybe adding this next generation here. But this could also be 3080 Super or 3080 Ti or whatever they're going to call it going forward. It really does feel like they're moving more in that direction of calling things Super rather than Ti. But we won't know. And NVIDIA doesn't even know yet. Like, they're still planning out it, but there's a lot of information here coming out regarding these cards, and there's a lot of data just being thrown around. Now, we did get our first benchmarks, and this is really awesome. So if you look down here, the RTX 2080 Founders Edition, and we're going to go out and assume, based on clock speed and all that we have from here, that this is probably the 3080 Founders Edition. Hopefully the 3080 Ti, not just the base 3080, because this is the 2080 Ti. That's whatever this card that they're testing is. It could be the Titan. It could be, because you're going to notice there that the Titan and the Ti are pretty close, though. Like, the Titan only gives you a 7%, 7 and a change percent increase. But the 3080 Ti was what we're assuming this is going to have over 30%, almost 31% increase on the Founders Edition RTX 2080 Ti. Now, you can notice here that the Kingpin model is kind of beating this unit out ever so slightly by about 3%. But also remember, that's like a late game model. So what we're going to be comparing here is the Founders Edition to the Founders Edition. It is blowing the 2080 absolutely out of the water. So those of you that I've been talking to about, new machine builds and all that stuff, don't buy new graphics cards right now. Wait, this is coming down the pike. And I've heard some people say August. I don't think August. I'm thinking September. I've heard some people say as late as October. Notable people, but really nobody knows at this point. I'm still on the camp. I really think it's going to be September, but you really never know. We just don't know how COVID has affected all this stuff. But really awesome stuff here with the RTX development. Now, not only do we have RTX development, we also have Intel working on a new line of processors. These are going to be the Tiger Lake processors. They always name their processors after, things like Coffee Lake, Sky Lake. These are the Tiger Lakes. These are the next generations coming out. And at first glance, it actually looks pretty sweet. Let's just get a little close up here. So they're comparing this to the Ryzen 7 47U. That's their API, which is interesting that they're comparing to the API. I don't know why they'd be doing that, but whatever. Probably because it looks like the new one's going to have onboard graphics, actually, from the looks of this. Generic VGA. Notice that APU has generic VGA. That's the difference between AMD's CPUs and APUs. APUs have the built-in graphics. So it looks like this is going to have built-in graphics. This is the 11th gen i7. And of course they're going to compare that to the Ryzen 7 because the Ryzen 7 compares to the i7, the Ryzen 9 compares to the i9, so on and so forth. But pretty straightforward stuff. Like, really nothing to really write home here about. They're about on the same level, which sounds okay. Notice that the CPU score, 5302 for the Ryzen 7, 5304 for the 11th gen i7. But bear in mind, these are not going to come out until the Zen 3 models are either on their way out or coming out. So don't expect to see this basically until the end of the year. But by that point, I suspect that AMD is going to be bringing out the Zen 3s. And the Zen 3s are going to blow the Zen 2s completely out of the water. So while early specs are, okay, cool, it seems like Intel's catching up, not really. Like, they're going to be like, we're on the par with like the last generation AMDs. Come on, Intel, please. It's just embarrassing at this point. The only thing I will say that Intel has going for them, this is a 4-core CPU versus the AMD's 8-core CPU. It still feels like Intel's pushing that single-core process a little more, but at the same rate, I mean, let's face it, most people need multiple cores now. Very, very, very few people are trying to push the single-core performance. Yes, it's better for gaming, but most gamers these days are doing multiple things. We're streaming, we're doing all kinds of stuff. So multi-core performance is really where it needs to be. So I hate to say it, as good as it is, yay, Intel, you're catching up. You're catching up to last year's technology. Congrats. It's just not good. Now, speaking of AMD, we have the XT levels of processors coming out. We're starting to get the first benchmarks of these. If you haven't been following this, the Ryzen 9 3900X and the Ryzen 7 3800X and the Ryzen 5 3600X all came out last year. They're now pushing this XT product. Now, why would they be doing this? Very simply put, if you ever go look at AMD's, ATI's offerings, their offerings always end in an XT, whereas AMD's offerings always ended in an X. But the next cards, and I had some information last week on Big Navi and all that stuff coming out for AMD, but it all turned out to be debunked, and the video just was scrapped because of that. But it looks like Big Navi is going to be using basically the same font and the same, character styles as AMD. So it looks like AMD and ATI are really trying to become one solid family. So it looks like the Radeon product is going to borrow the Ryzen fonts, and then they're just going to try to market themselves together. For better or worse, I really still think, even though everyone's talking Big Navi is going to be a thing, and RDNA 2, which is their answer to ray tracing that RTX does, I just don't. I remain skeptical. Now, they could blow me out of the water, but I remain skeptical. I really feel like most gamers are still going to stick to the RTX products, unless RDNA 2 proves to be just that powerful for that much cheaper. So, only time will tell. But benchmarks are coming out, and they're looking really interesting. Now, one thing I do want you to pay close attention to. Notice that they're comparing theirs to the 10th Gen Core i9 for the Ryzen 9 and 10th Gen i7 for the Ryzen 7. So we already know the Tiger Lakes are going to be pretty close, but blowing away by a pretty decent margin. Notice Cinebench R15, that's more like single-core processing. Intel still owns single-core, but only by a small margin. AMD is catching up fast. Really fast, especially in the lower processes. Now, the one thing I do want to say about this, 3900 XT looks like a great product on the surface, but it's only 100 megahertz faster than the OG 3900X, or in this case, 3800X or 3600X. They're very, very, very small upgrades. You can now go get a 3900X around $100 to $150 off the original price. So really, that's a better value. But once again, we already know Zen 3 is going to be launching before the end of the year, so it's a really poor time to go dump a bunch of money into a processor. The XT is just kind of the next stepping stone, made to wet people's whistles until Zen 3 drops. So these are all still Zen 2 processors. Zen 3, which is what the current Threadripper is based on, will be coming up. That's the new 5nm process. These are 7nm, so on and so forth. So you're going to be looking at a much better machine build if you wait for both RTX and the Zen 3 processes. But good-looking benchmarks right off the bat, and notice this is blowing away the current competitors. So imagine what Zen 3 is going to be doing. It's going to be pretty awesome. Yeah. So notice the 3900 XT is almost 7,500 points versus the Intel, which is 6,399. So I don't want to tell y'all there. It's why would you build an Intel system in this day and age? It says the guy who just got done, trying to build an Intel system, and it was garbage. Just don't build an Intel system right now. And that brings me to my next point of conversation. We're going to get into games. We just got Night City Wire a couple days ago for Cyberpunk 2077, and there's a lot to talk about regarding this. I know a lot of people are upset that the date got moved back to November 19th, but notice the date got pushed back to November 19th, and we recently got the leak that states that the PS5 should be releasing on November 20th. This is not a coincidence, guys. This is not a coincidence. Now, they claim that Cyberpunk 2077 will be, quote, backwards compatible. I'm sorry, it's not backwards compatible if you're talking about the next gen, but they claim it is to be backwards compatible from the PS4 to the PS5. That's forwards compatible, if anything. But what they mean is you buy a PS4 version, you'll be able to play it on the PS5. You buy Xbox One version, you'll be able to play it on the Series 1X. So I'm a little on the fence about this, because after I just got done playing Maneater, and I love Maneater. Those of you guys who were at the Maneater streams, you know I love that game to death. But that is a game that desperately needs ray tracing. And I feel like for a lot of the stuff, for a lot of the early art we're seeing for this, it's going to 100% require ray tracing. I really feel like, just like Maneater, it is going to cook your PlayStation. So I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that, but that is my early prediction. We'll have to see what it looks like on console. But this is what I'm building my PC for, 100%. I'm building my PC to play Cyberpunk on those new RTX cards, the 3080, 3090, whatever it is. And hopefully Zen 3 will, if not drop by that point, will be available for pre-order or whatever at that point. But this is what I'm basing my PC build on. And that's why I wanted to segue into this from, the AMD and the RTX and all that stuff. So another interesting thing that they showed us on Night City Wire was Brain Dance. This is this really awesome. If you're not following this, basically the long and the short of it is, it's like GTA but in the future. But remember, Cyberpunk shares a lot of lore with this old tabletop gaming RPG and a series of other games that they've had. This is just further in the future to Cyberpunk 2077. I think 2020 was the last one, ironically. Probably not ironically at all, probably quite deliberately. And then 2077 is going to be kind of a continuation of that lore. So there's a lot of lore to build off of. But they're going to include this thing called Brain Dance, which basically allows you to almost preemptively role play, so to speak, your incoming events and replay incoming events through your memories and things like that. It's really neat how it works. But that was the main thing they showed off on Night City Wire. There will be another Night City Wire coming up in, quote, just a few weeks. So stay tuned on Twitter. I'll be tweeting all that out, and I will be watching it and live tweeting my reactions to it. The other thing that I thought was really interesting was there's going to be an anime of Cyberpunk called Edge Runners that's actually going to be animated by Trigger, and in the United States, I'm guessing, released by Netflix. So that's going to be really awesome. Some of the early stuff they showed us on that looked pretty sweet. Obviously no art or animations or anything like that. It's all prelim stuff, but it looks like everybody's really psyched for this. So big shout out. That is awesome news. We're getting awesome news every single day on Cyberpunk. I'm super stoked for this game. It's probably like the one game of 2020 that I'm just looking forward to more than anything else. So let's transition from that into some really interesting. So this is actually the scene they used to show us Night City Wire, where they have these little things that come out. You can kind of see them there, and it plays back all your memories. This is a pretty awesome little scene. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about drama. We've got the drama corner, guys. Last of Us Part 2. What a polarizing thing. I don't have a personal opinion on this. I've not played it yet. Honestly, I've never played the original. I don't really have strong feelings one way or the other. But man, if there's one takeaway we can kind of grab from this, it's that, guys, don't troll reviews. Just don't, I don't want to get political about it, but there are people out there that are mad because there's some type of people in the game, and then there's other people that are mad that they don't feel like those people were treated right, and blah, 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 blah. It's so stupid. It's so juvenile. Review the game if you're going to review the game. Stop trolling. It really makes me just want to go play the first and the second game and just see. Now, I have seen some people that I know that played the game and just absolutely despised it because one or two things happened. No spoilers. But I did see some people that have been playing it repeatedly and loved it and seem to find a lot of replayability in it. So before you go and make a judgment call without having played the game, just play the game. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard, which is going to take me to my next one. Pokemon Unite. A lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, were just unnaturally furious over this game. Now, I will go ahead and say, no part of me thinks that they did the introduction of this game right whatsoever. Like, obviously, it was just like a 3-minute ad. They really hyped the crap out of this. And what it is, it's a mobile MOBA that, I think it's interesting because it looks like it's just a straight-up global game, unless they really screw the pooch on this one. But, there's obviously a bunch of dudes in America here playing with a bunch of people in Japan. Hopefully, it is just like one giant global game, and that would be pretty awesome. I think it looks pretty good myself. I might give this a shot. I'm going to be real. It looks pretty good. The only downside, and I will agree with this wholeheartedly, is that it's a collaboration with Tencent. And if you guys don't know Tencent, they're the ones that they're pretty much owned by the Chinese government, and they're kind of the ones that pulled the trigger behind all of that. Or not even pulled the trigger, I will say. They're the ones that Blizzard was afraid of taking off with that whole thing back in the day. So not really hyped about that. It's going to be hard to get past that portion of it. So if you're mad about Tencent being involved in this, I 100% agree with you. I like that is garbage. No legitimate company should be in 2020 even getting themselves involved with them. But that's just the nature of the beast. That's where we're at. Other than that, I think Pokemon Unite looks interesting. And what is hilarious about this? The way they hyped this, I think a lot of people were expecting a new Pokemon game, kind of like on the lines of the RPGs we've been having when we just had Sword and Shield. I think it's a little early for another one. But what's funny about that is just earlier in the week, Pokemon announced another Pokemon Snap game, and everybody lost their damn minds. I personally don't see the appeal in Pokemon Snap. To be fair, I never played it on the 64. But literally, it's just you're taking pictures of wildlife. Someone explain it to me. I just don't understand the appeal. It's, maybe if you it's one player here. Maybe if you could trade pictures with people. At least with the OG Pokemon, it's an RPG. Yes, it is about collecting animals and fighting animals, but it has a really great story, really great adventure that you go on. And the fact that it was a mobile game on Game Boy, had a lot of promise. So Pokemon, I don't understand, guys. I just flat don't. I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me. But hey, you guys were excited about that, but not about something that is gonna, expand the lore and let you do even more with Pokemon than you ever could in the past. You know what? Doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense one bit. I don't like Tencent. I'll give you that. But I'm way more hyped for this than I am for that. Unpopular opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Now it is time to tell me how stupid I am. Moving on to my last thing I'm going to talk about today, and that is the death of Mixer. Holy crap. I don't think anybody really saw this coming, but I know there was some, without getting into the politics of it, there was some really poor decisions made behind the scenes in Mixer. Some very public, shameful comments. Looks like Microsoft is closing Mixer officially on July 22nd and joining with Facebook Gaming. Along with that, they're trying to extend contracts to other people, and a lot of people just dropped, including Ninja. Ninja and Shroud, two of the big named, came from Twitch, giant contracts. Ninja is going to get a full payment of his $30 million contract completely fulfilled, and then he becomes a free agent. Shroud is only getting a mere $10 million. Oh, my heart bleeds for you, my man. So, and the best part is, so they're getting their contracts fulfilled without having to complete them, and then they're going to be free agents. Like, dude, just buy an island. I mean, for God's sakes. It's when I was growing up, and I'm going to date myself here. When I was growing up, like, my parents refused to buy me a Nintendo. So, like, there's no future in video games. Oh, boy, just made $30 million. No future video games. Anyway, my mother's not going to watch this. So, yeah. What's really interesting about that is rumor has it that Facebook apparently has offered to double those contracts. But from what I'm reading on this, it looks like Facebook's contract is really, really, really brutal. Now, all contracts are going to be exclusive, but Facebook's is supposed to be pretty bad. So being a free agent probably is not a bad idea. Now I'm starting to hear grumblings where some of these displaced mixer streamers are starting to come over to Twitch and grumble they want affiliate status based on their affiliate numbers over in Mixer. Mixed feelings on that. In my opinion, I think you should have to work for it, but I also get it because this is your job in a lot of cases. So maybe there's something that Twitter can do to, like, give them affiliate, but don't give them partner. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think of that in the comments section down below. And don't be salty. Don't just be like, no, make them work for it. Because, yes, they've already worked for it. They've earned it. They've owned it. Like, it is no big deal to give them affiliate. But partner, that's a big one right there. But that is This Week in Gaming. That is a lot to talk about, guys. I know there's even stuff I didn't talk about. But let me know if you were hyped for the 3080 series graphics cards. And rumor even has it that the 2070s, 2060s even, or I'm sorry, 3060s might be as powerful as the 2080s. Not TIs, but 20. So that is more and more and more sounding like a complete possibility. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, share. Let me know what you think about This Week in Gaming. If this is something I should keep doing, because I really do enjoy it. So that's the video. Like, comment, share. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, notification bell. Be back at you guys next week with more This Week in Gaming news.